Hey guys, welcome back, I'm Jay. Amazon S3 is one of the most widely used AWS storage services. In this episode, we're going to look at key concepts of S3. Amazon Simple Storage Service or S3 is a reliable web-scale object storage, where you can store massive amount of data, upload and retrieve data from anywhere over the internet. S3 is a highly scalable, available and durable storage that stores data securely, and allows fast data transfer. S3 is an object-based storage. An object is a data file, which can be in any format. Each object comprises a key value pair. The object key is the name of the object, and the object value is the actual file. S3 is the most widely used AWS storage service. You can use S3 to store media files, such as videos, audios, images, and log data. You can back up EBS volumes or databases with S3 and restore data whenever you need. Some companies use S3 as a secure long-term storage for auditing and compliance purpose. Big data companies use S3 as the data lake for machine learning and big data analytics. You can also store sensory data for thousands of IoT devices. S3 is also common for static web hosting, where you can host HTML, CSS, and front-end JavaScript for your website. You pay for storage space at per gigabyte rate, and API calls such as put, post, and get requests. You also pay for data transferred out of S3. However, data transferred into S3 is free. The storage rate of the standard S3 class is around 2 cents per gigabyte, depends on your region. For the first 12 months, you get 5 gigabytes free storage space, 20,000 free get requests, 2,000 free put requests. For instance, if you store 5 gigabytes of data in S3, it's free in the first 12 months. After 12 months, you will pay approximately 11 cents per month for data storage. S3 is highly scalable. You can store from only a few bytes to terabytes or even petabytes of data. In theory, the total volume and the total number of files you can store are unlimited. S3 is highly durable. It is designed for 11 nines of data durability of all S3 classes. S3 automatically creates and stores copies of all objects across multiple systems. Once your data is stored in S3, it will never disappear, damage or corrupt, until you delete it. S3 is highly available. The standard S3 class offers 4 nines of service availability, which means less than 1 hour downtime in a given year. Basically, more nines gives you higher availability or durability. AWS guarantees even during unexpected events like fire or flood, you might experience a very short downtime, but you will never lose your data, as data is replicated across multiple data centers. Data in S3 is highly secure. S3 supports data encryption in transit and encryption at rest. S3 provides different levels of access management. S3 supports IAM policies, bucket policy, object level access control list, and access points. Data transfer in S3 is very fast. You can use S3 transfer acceleration to enable fast data transfer over a long distance. Transfer acceleration leverages AWS global edge locations and ultra-fast global network to provide low latency data transfer. A block storage is like the hard drive on your computer, or Amazon EBS volume. You can install the operating system and software, deploy applications, or even create file systems. For instance, you can install a database in a block storage. A file system controls how data is stored and retrieved. The file system on your computer, or network file systems like Amazon EFS, can have hierarchies, such as directories and subdirectories. For instance, you can create subfolders inside a folder on your computer. An object storage is a computer data storage architecture that manages data as objects. You can only store static files in object storage. The main purpose of the object storage is to reliably store massive amounts of unstructured data and retrieve it efficiently. You cannot install operating systems or run any software in object storage. Object storage has no hierarchy. In S3, objects are stored in S3 buckets. Each bucket is a flat structure with no hierarchy. An object comprises a key value pair. An object key can contain a prefix with slash delimiters, which compose a path-styled object key. From AWS console, a prefix might look like a folder inside the S3 bucket. However, it's not a real folder. Once an object is stored, you cannot modify its name or content. For instance, you can update the content of a text file in a file system. Updates immediately can be applied to the file. However, you can't edit a file in object storage, you can only replace it or delete it. A bucket is the top-level repository that stores all objects. Inside a bucket, it's a flat structure with no directory. All objects inside a bucket are stored in the same top-level repository. The bucket name must be globally unique across all AWS accounts. For instance, if you create a bucket called Cloudemy, other AWS customers cannot create a bucket with the same name. If you delete the bucket name becomes available to other AWS accounts. Although Amazon S3 gives you a global view of all buckets in all regions, S3 bucket is regional. You have to specify an AWS region when you create a bucket. You can choose a region that is geographically close to your users, to minimize the latency. You can allow or restrict public access to a bucket with a bucket policy. You can access a bucket via REST API with a combination of bucket name and key name. It supports both host style and path style URL. For instance, a host style URL is made of the bucket name and S3 regional hostname/key name. The path style URL is made of S3 regional hostname/bucket name/key name. An object can be a file in any format. Once an object is uploaded to a bucket, you can only replace or delete it, but you cannot modify it. You can replace an object by uploading a new object with the same name as the existing object. The total volume of data and the number of objects you can store in a bucket are virtually unlimited. Individual S3 objects can range in size from 0 bytes to 5 terabytes. The largest object that can be uploaded in a single put is 5 gigabytes. To upload any object larger than 100 megabytes, you should consider using the multi-part upload instead of a single put. You can optionally enable S3 versioning to keep multiple versions of objects. By default, without versioning, when you upload an object with the same name, it will replace the previous object. After you enable versioning, S3 will keep multiple versions of objects. You need to enable the versioning at the bucket level. You can set access permissions, storage class, and encryption options for individual objects. So each object in a bucket can have different access permissions, storage class, and encryptions. When you successfully upload an object to the S3 bucket, S3 sends back an HTTP 200 success code. An S3 object consists of a key value pair, version ID, metadata, subresources, and access control. A key may or may not have a prefix with /delimiters, such as image/cat.jpg or cat.jpg. A prefix and object key compose a path style key, which might look like a directory on AWS console. However, it's not a directory, as there's no hierarchy inside a bucket. Object value is the content that you store, which can be in any digital format. An object value can be any sequence of bytes, range in size from 0 bytes to 5 terabytes. Version ID is an identifier that S3 generates. When you enable S3 versioning, every time you put an object or update it in a bucket, S3 generates a version ID for the object. Combination of object key and version ID can uniquely identify an object in a bucket. Metadata is a set of name-value pairs which stores information about an object, such as the content type, content length, last modified time, and encryption. There are AWS-defined metadata and user-defined metadata. Subresources are subordinates to objects. S3 uses the subresource mechanism to store additional object-specific information, such as ACL or torrent. ACL contains information about the ownership and permissions of an object. S3 also supports BitTorrent protocol, and use torrent subresource to return the torrent file associated with the object. S3 supports both the resource-based access control, such as ACLs and bucket policies, and user-based access control such as IAM policies. S3 is the distributed storage that stores data across multiple availability zones. When you upload objects to S3, data is propagated across multiple redundant servers. Because the propagation might take some time to complete, it's important to understand the S3 data consistency models. S3 supports read-after-write consistency for put requests of new objects. When you upload a new object to S3, the object immediately becomes available to read after the successful upload. A put request is an HTTP request for creating a new object or replacing an existing object. Read-after-write consistency only applies to new objects. S3 also supports eventual consistency for put and delete requests of existing objects. When you replace or delete an existing object, it can take some time to propagate across multiple servers, but eventually data is going to be consistent. For instance, when you replace a file with a newer version in S3 bucket, if you read the file immediately, you may still see the old version. After a few seconds you'll see the new version. S3 also offers a number of advanced features. You can enable object versioning and store multiple versions of objects. You need to enable S3 versioning at the bucket level. You can use transfer acceleration and leverage AWS edge locations and global network to speed up data transfer over a long distance. You need to enable the transfer acceleration at the bucket level. You can choose different storage classes for objects in different use cases. Each storage class offers different pricing, availability and retrieval time. You can set the storage class at the object level. You can apply lifecycle rules on a bucket and move objects between different storage classes and delete them after the expiration. You can set the lifecycle rule for all objects in a bucket or objects with a specific prefixes or tags. Lifecycle rules can also manage the lifecycle of multiple versions of an object if you've enabled the object versioning. You need to configure lifecycle rules at the bucket level. You can enable object deletion protection using different options. The first option is object lock. You need to set the object lock at the bucket level during the bucket creation time. The second option is MFA delete. You can set MFA delete when you enable object versioning on a bucket. You can only set up MFA delete using API or CLI. Only the root account user can enable MFA delete. The third option is bucket policy. You can set deny delete objects in a bucket policy to restrict object deletions. You can enable same region or cross-region replication for all objects, or objects with specific prefixes or tags in a bucket. Same region replication enables automatic copying of objects across buckets in the same AWS region. Cross-region replication enables automatic copying of objects across buckets in different regions. Replication is commonly used for backups, auditing, or redundancy purpose. You need to enable replication at the bucket level. You can use an S3 bucket to host a static website, without installing any web server. To host a static website, both bucket and objects must be public. You need to set up the static website hosting at the bucket level. Amazon S3 offers a range of storage classes designed for different use cases. Each class has a different offering and pricing. Storage classes can be configured at the object level, which means objects in the same bucket can be stored in different classes. You pay different rates for objects in different classes. S3 standard class is designed for 99.99% availability. Data is stored across at least 3 availability zones. S3 standard class is recommended for frequently accessed data. S3 standard infrequent access class is designed for 99.9% availability. Data is stored across at least 3 AZs. It's recommended for infrequently accessed data, but require rapid access when needed. S3 one-zone infrequent access class is designed for 99.5% availability. Data is only stored in 1 AZ. You can potentially lose data in the event of one-zone destruction. It's recommended for infrequently accessed data that requires no redundancy. S3 intelligent tiering is designed for 99.9% availability. Data is stored across at least 3 AZs. It automatically moves between S3 standard and standard IE class. It's recommended for data with unknown or changing access patterns. S3 Glacier class is designed for 99.99% availability. Data is stored across at least 3 AZs. It's a lower cost storage class for data archiving, with retrieval time from minutes to hours. S3 Glacier Deep Archive class is designed for 99.99% availability. Data is stored across at least 3 AZs. It's the lowest cost storage class for data archiving, with retrieval time within 12 hours. S3 storage classes are often used with S3 lifecycle management and storage class analysis for cost optimization. S3 supports both user-based and resource-based access control of data stored in the bucket. You can configure IAM policies to control access for IAM users, groups, and roles. You can use access control lists to control access at the object level. You can also attach a bucket policy to the bucket and control access at the bucket level. AWS introduced a new feature called Access Points in 2019, for more dedicated access control. You can protect data in S3 using data encryption. Encryption in transit is a way to protect data traveling to and from S3 using SSL or TLS. Encryption at rest means data is encrypted while it's stored in S3. You can enable encryption at rest for the whole bucket or encrypt individual objects separately. For encryption at rest, you can choose server-side encryption or client-side encryption. You can set up a different data encryption option for each object. You can also enable default encryption for all objects at the bucket level. S3 pricing is based on the following factors. You need to pay for storage per gigabyte. S3 offers tiered prices based on the total space you consume. You pay per gigabyte rate for the total size of all objects in S3 buckets. Prices vary in different regions and storage classes. AWS charges read and write requests such as GET, LIST, and PUT requests when you use the Management Console, CLI and API. For instance, when you use the S3 console to browse objects, you incur charges for GET and LIST requests. Rates are based on per 1,000 requests and vary in different regions. For infrequent access, one zone IA, and Glacier classes, there are also per gigabyte data retrieval charges. You pay for the total data retrieved. When you use lifecycle management to move objects from standard class to other classes, you need to pay for the lifecycle transition requests. If you use S3 intelligent tiering, there is a monthly monitoring and automation fee. S3 monitors the object access patterns, and automatically moves objects between standard class and infrequent access class. Data transferred into S3 is free. You only pay for data transferred out of S3. Prices for data transferred out to other regions or internet vary in different regions. If you use S3 with CloudFront, data transfer out of S3 to CloudFront is free. However, you need to pay for data transferred from CloudFront to S3. You can enable transfer acceleration to leverage AWS Edge locations. You pay extra for data transfer into or out of S3 using transfer acceleration. S3 replication can incur charges. You need to pay for the storage of the original data and data in the destination bucket, replication put requests, and retrieval fee if you replicate objects from the infrequent access class. For cross-region replication, you pay for inter-region data transfer out from S3 to your destination region. When you use S3 replication time control, you also pay a replication time control data transfer fee, and S3 replication metrics charges. If you have enabled storage management, such as S3 inventory analytics, and object tagging on your bucket, you need to pay for these storage management features. S3 Select and S3 Batch operations can also incur charges. S3 Select allows you to use SQL command to query directly on data, without retrieving the entire data. You pay for S3 Select based on total data scanned and data returned. S3 Batch operations allows you to perform large-scale batch operations on objects. You pay for batch operations based on per batch job and total object operations performed. You may enable the requester pays feature on the bucket. The requester will pay for requests and data transfer. When the requester pays is enabled, anonymous access to this bucket is disabled. In this episode, we've learned the basic concept of Amazon S3. S3 is a reliable web-scale object storage, where you can store massive amount of data. S3 stores files as objects in flat structure without hierarchy. You cannot modify objects, you can only replace or delete objects after they've been uploaded. A bucket is the top-level repository that stores objects, with virtually unlimited storage. Objects are files inside a bucket, they can be in any format, and range in size from 0 bytes to 5 terabytes. An object consists of a key value pair, version ID, metadata, subresources, and access control. A bucket name must be unique globally across all AWS accounts. An object name must be unique inside a bucket. When you successfully upload an object to the S3 bucket, S3 sends back an HTTP 200 success code. S3 provides read after write data consistency when you upload new objects, and eventual data consistency when you replace or delete existing objects. You can set different storage classes for individual objects, including S3 Standard, Standard IA, One Zone IA, Intelligent Tiering, S3 Glacier and Glacier Deep Archive. You can manage S3 access control with IAM policies, access control lists, bucket policy and access points. S3 supports data encryption in transit and encryption at rest that help you enforce data security and privacy. You can optionally use S3 advanced features, such as object versioning, transfer acceleration, lifecycle rules, replications and deletion protection. You can use an S3 bucket to host a static website, without installing any web server. Okay, that's all for Amazon S3. Thanks for watching and see you in the next episode.
Hope you've enjoyed watching this episode. If you liked the video, please help us and hit the like button. If you want to watch more tutorials, please subscribe to the Cloudemy TV channel. Make sure to turn on the notification and stay tuned. At Cloudemy, we're passionate about cloud and AI technology. Please share your feedback and thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to watch. Happy watching and happy learning.